Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode here at the Damage Report. Still under quarantine, under lockdown, and wondering who's going to be joining me on the show today. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. But no, it's Wednesday. Wednesdays are big news days. And while some of the big news we'll be discussing on today's show actually happened yesterday, this is our first chance to talk about it. So the maxim still stands. It's a big news day, and thus it's a big JR news day. JR, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. I like to cut things close, John Iadarola. Like
Yeah.
on the edge. We get into this monotony of a day-to-day thing, and we're constantly just like, be on time. Make sure you show up. Make sure when the camera comes onto your shot, it's not just an empty chair. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna press that directive. I'm gonna press these normal rules, and I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that you're not sure if I'm gonna be here.
The most exciting way to start a show is looking at the co-host seat empty and then basically hearing him like brew coffee in the background, like do 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 do. I don't know exactly what was going on, but anyway, we're very glad to have you here.
I'm just here to win. I'm here to win.
Exactly. I'm sick of winning personally, so we're gonna be talking about some other wins. We're gonna have a big disagreement. You said on Twitter.
Hey,
We'll see if that actually happens.
I didn't say anything. I just thought it might happen based off of your previous tweets.
I know. I tweet a lot of things, and I don't tweet a lot of other things, and some should be in the opposite column. Half of my tweets I know half as well as they deserve. Something like that. Ask Bilbo. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna be talking about the Kamala Harris pick, the right-wing reaction to the Kamala Harris pick. We're gonna give our own reaction to the Kamala Harris pick. We've got COVID. We've got Ilhan Omar. We've got a lot that we're going to be getting to. And you know what you should be getting to? The act of hitting the like button and perhaps even sharing the stream, so more people know that this is active and can join in the conversation, which we will be responding to in real time. Your comments, your tweets, your super chats, and all of that should be a lot of fun. So, oh, by the way, just a couple of quick notes before we get to it. Yesterday was the What Does the Future Look Like special, hosted by Cenk Uygur, and, including a number of awesome guests that came on the show, Andrew Yang, Dolores Huerta, and a number of others. That's now out there. You can go watch that, I believe, if you're a member. Not 100% sure, but that's generally how it is. So that should be a lot of fun. Also want to let you know that, as always, we are continuing our sort of quarantine fundraising drive. And if you have the means to help us out a little bit, you can go to tyt.com/go to do that. We've been successful in past months, but the pandemic is looking like, this lockdown might last until, I don't know, the end of the second Harris term. So God only knows what's going to happen between now and then.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. JR is so excited that not only is he rocking with laughter, his whole setup is rocking with laughter. But anyway, with that, JR, why don't we jump to our first story?
I'm ready.
Oh, actually, let me mention one little news tidbit.
Uh-huh.
So I just happened to notice a headline. It's that the president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, is apparently going to be involved in the next round of testing of that Russian coronavirus vaccine, which just seems like there's a lot of things in that sentence that when you combine make me think that it's not going to end well. But I do have to say that Donald Trump, if you're watching this, like, your buddy Duterte, he's taking it because he's strong and brave. And so he's going to take that vaccine because he trusts the new Russian vaccine. Are you really going to let him show you up like that? Obviously, we hope that their vaccine is safe and all of that. Seems fast, but I'm not a doctor. I will wait to hear what real doctors think of the results of that testing.
We can't have another president lead from behind on this. He needs to take the stage and go ahead and take this vaccine.
And think about it. If he doesn't, what does that say? That he'll take hydroxychloroquine, he'll potentially take bleach, but he won't take the new Russian vaccine. Weird. Anyway, I hope that vaccine is amazing and safe, and I hope that we purchase a bunch of it from Russia. But I'm not necessarily going to trust Duterte to make the decision about whether that's safe or not. And anyway, so we are going to be getting to Kamala Harris in just a minute. There's one quick story I want to start the show off with, because this is how I started my morning off, and I think a lot of people did. So we're going to launch into this story first. Donald Trump woke up, and in the morning, he likes a little bit of coffee. and he likes a little bit of racism. And today we got both, with him tweeting, "The suburban housewife will be voting for me. They want safety and are thrilled that I ended the long-running program where low-income housing would invade their neighborhood.
Mm.
Biden would reinstall it in a bigger form with Cory Booker in charge."
Mm.
What? Okay, so
Great
some
stuff.
of that, we got the suburban dream or whatever from a couple weeks ago. What does Cory Booker have to do with any of this?
It's the first black person that came to mind outside of Kamala Harris. So then that was his problem. Because let me see who else was a bigger name presidential candidate that at least made the stage. Oh, Cory Booker, he's black too, right? There we go.
Mhm.
Let's go with that. Because I've already said the invasion line. I've already talked about how these communities are going. Previously talked about these communities are going to be destroyed. The housing values go down. Crime will be up. Where have I heard those stereotypes and tropes before? Maybe when the idiot first came down the escalator and said Mexicans and Latinos are rapists, they're drug dealers, they're criminals, invasion, caravan. We heard about all this before. This is nothing new. These are the same terms used when you want to espouse your racism to your racist base.
Exactly. That's all it is. With a little bit of misogyny too. The idea that it's all just these housewives
Yeah.
that are just hanging out waiting for Trump to protect them from black and brown people moving into their neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
But yeah,
those pristine white housewives have to make sure they're not going to be invaded by these rapists, black people that are coming to your community
yeah.
to commit crime and cause rape. Where have we heard those types of racist tropes before? When? In what part of our history?
Yeah, I was gonna say America always. Yeah, that's all it is. That's all it is. That's all it's intended to be. The right will pretend that that's not what it is, but that is what it is, and that's what they want it to be. They want him to say stuff like this. They're desperate for it. If that tweet had included the N-word, what percentage of his base would hate it? Is it 5%? That would be like, no, he shouldn't have said that. And
Yeah.
what percent are hot for him to finally use the word publicly? They've heard that he used it, behind the scenes on The Apprentice. They want it out in the open. But anyway, so there's that. Obviously, there's the little bit of misogyny, but then also, like, think about if you actually believe that what he is saying is a thing that could potentially happen and you're worried about it. So it's not actually true. Multiple studies have shown that adding low-income housing does not universally create extra crime and stuff like that. But think about, there's this one worldview that he is trying to appeal to, which is poor people commit crimes, especially black and brown poor people. I have to defend the good white people from them. So we set up walls to keep them out of the country. Inside of our country, we keep them as far away as we can. Isn't there like an alternative worldview where you just stop them from being so poor that in your mind they inevitably turn to lives of crime? What if they weren't paid so little? What if they made a living wage? What if they had access to all of the economic benefits that have historically given to the people that you're trying to appeal to with that tweet? Maybe then they wouldn't be inevitable harbingers of doom and crime and pestilence. Like, that's
Or,
another direction that we could go in.
yeah, or maybe historically in this country, Black Americans have established thriving communities, bustling communities that are full of successful people, hardworking, middle class, upper class, whatever class people, because humans, Black Americans are Americans too. We've historically had these communities where they've been disrupted, they've been overturned by terrorists, other Americans that come in and terrorize their communities simply because it's a thriving Black community. Let's
Yeah.
keep it real. Or get invaded by the things where cops can come in and over police those communities. And all these things happen where suddenly it's a crime-ridden community because that's what these people in power have told us that it is, when in reality they've helped facilitate and destroy these communities, because there's nothing like seeing successful Black people collectively come together that would destroy your narrative that they're a bunch of lazy former slaves that just can't get by without the assistance of the good old white guy.
Yeah.
These are the things that they're consistently saying. And side note, not too ironic, but that Cory Booker guy that you were talking about, he is, upon his birth and his family, has experienced things that happened with the housing problem when they were growing up in 1969. He's told the story many times. I don't know if Donald Trump ever paid attention, but that's the first thing everybody that comes to mind when people think, wait, Cory Booker, is he bringing him up because of that whole real estate steering thing that happened with his family when they couldn't get a house? Because what was obviously happening after they decided to investigate this, when Black families would come to the neighborhood that his parents eventually bought their house in, they'd ask, they'd look for housing. This is again in the late 60s. where the real estate agents or the people selling the houses would not sell them the house. Then 5 minutes later, a white couple comes and asks the exact same questions about the exact same house, and guess who gets an offer? That couple. So
Yeah.
to flip the script, Booker's family sent the white family in. They gave them the whole paperwork, but the black family came in his and said, "You know what? It's us instead."
Hmm.
Guess who got punched in the face? But his the attorney for the family,
Mm.
and who was thrown out by this same real estate guy. But there was a rule in effect around that time. All these things happened to Cory Booker and his family. So Cory Booker is going to be the guy that's going to come in and destroy your pristine white communities with all these black, poor, lazy people.
Yeah.
When his was the family that was getting pushed out by these racists and these terrorists previously.
I mean, I'm glad that you brought it. It's literally perfect. It's that Cory Booker was himself and his family the target of those sorts of policies, and Donald Trump and his family have literally done that to other black families. It's so perfect. But of course, his fans, like, we can describe all this we want. That's not going to turn them against him. This
No.
is what they want out of him.
No, the reaction to them is, "Oh, you've made these libs cry." Crying
Yeah.
is not stating facts and pointing out your racism. That's just you looking
Exactly.
like a bad guy.
Right, and really fast, not related to any of this, but he replied to his own tweet and tweeted one other thing this morning. I just thought it was weird. One, because it has nothing to do with what he was talking about, and two, because it's the most amazing projection ever. And bear in mind, this is coming off of a day where we're going to show you a couple of videos later on of him speaking, and you can tell that he's Sleepy Joe up there. Like he's just not physically the same as he once was. So he tweeted, "Watched Bill Maher last week for the first time in a long time. He's totally shot. Looks terrible, exhausted, gaunt, and weak. If there was ever a good reason for no shutdown, check out this jerk." Check out this jerk. He never had much going for him, but whatever he did have is missing in action. Like Trump in Vietnam. Dun-dun-dun. But anyway, yeah, Bill Maher. Look, I'm not a defender of Bill Maher. I don't love Bill Maher. But like, yeah, he's not himself physically. He's falling apart. He's weak and tired. Not me. Not me. Him. He is. Look at him. Oh God. Tweeting is exhausting.
Why are you watching Bill Maher, bro? You know what? I haven't
Why is
watched.
he watching Bill Maher?
I haven't
And
watched Bill Maher in years either. So
I watched the segment that Bill Maher did about Trump after seeing this tweet, and it was Bill Maher giving a fake eulogy for Trump. And so I get why Trump would be mad at him, but like, stop watching people that hate you, man. You clearly can't take it. You're too sensitive in all the wrong ways. Anyway. Okay. Before we press on with the big news of the day, let's read just a few super chats. Andrew Smythe with the first today. Credit to Andrew. Hey, John, are you excited for Legend of Korra on Friday? So the thing is, I have seen a little bit of Legend of Korra, one of the later seasons, and I did like it. The thing is, I haven't actually watched Avatar yet, so I need to do that first. Eventually, I'm going to. I know they're great.
Cannot believe you have not watched Avatar yet.
Have you?
That is.
Oh my God, I bet you'd like it too. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've only seen a little bit of it. Anyway, Exoteric said in reference to the vaccine, who did Russia steal it from? Yeah, the thing is, like, I saw that news about them supposedly trying to steal some coronavirus stuff like a few weeks ago or a month ago, and I think I said on the show, give it to them. Why is any country having to steal scientific research on dealing with coronavirus? That should all be posted on Wikipedia. Like, anybody who wants to advance it should be advancing it. I don't care if it's a terrible country. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe if they're worried about them weaponizing the disease itself, but I got news for you. It's everywhere.
I have a theory that, if it wasn't seen as profitable to come up with this vaccine, we might have far fewer people even attempting to do anything about this.
That's true. That's true. And Kai Allen says, happy Wednesday, John and JR. For those who don't already know, in Trump's brain, angry means black and nasty means woman. When you hear him say those words, just switch them out. Yeah, you're only 155.
And if you're angry and nasty, we know who he's talking about.
We know who you're talking about. AJ, thank you. Franklin Sharpslicer said, all we are saying, give peace a chance. They make it hard to do under the circumstance. We should be enjoying what life gives instead of hearing it is what it is. 'Tis a small task. Wear the mask. It's all we ask. P.S. You rock. Franklin, you rock as well. Thank you. That was a good one. Over on Twitch, Pickerbell Pixie is giving out some tier 1 subs. Thank you for that. Osborne as well. Thank you. And Obi Mom Kenobi, thank you to all of you for being such good ambassadors for the show. Appreciate that. Over on Twitter, at #TDR Live, the revolution starts now. Apparently got her We Press On shirt and sent in a photo. That's awesome. By the way, this is to all of TYT. In that tweet, the revolution starts now also says, still waiting for a TDR shirt. And they're not the only ones. So maybe think about it. It's doing pretty well. It's been around for a couple of years. Just saying.
Write that email. Just write the email.
Should I write another email? Is that what you're saying? I should write yet another
For the
email?
people that are clamoring for a TDR shirt, they should let the other folks know.
That's true. And you should DM other members of TYT. No, don't do that. Anyway, okay, with that, why don't we jump into the biggest news of the day?
Absolutely.
We'd been awaiting this week who was going to be the VP pick for Joe Biden. And yesterday, Emma Vigeland and myself made our last predictions. And Emma, I believe, picked Karen Bass, if I remember correctly. And I picked, of course, the correct one. And it was Kamala Harris, which we found out not long after the show happened. There was no reason to throw Emma under the bus there, but I worked it in.
No, that's the reason. It's Emma. Throw her under the bus.
Exactly. Jayar, we have our VP pick. It's Kamala Harris. First question, are you at all surprised, or is this who you thought it would end up being?
Not surprised. In fact, I'd have been disappointed if he didn't do this, because there would have been a chance for everyone to then scour and trying to figure out the reasons why he chose someone else. So even when you choose the obvious pick, then the outrage has to come, because we need something to talk about. Oh my God, he chose Kamala. You know what that means? Because if he didn't, you'd be like, oh my God, he didn't choose Kamala. You know what that means? Like, it's just, we kind of have to have something incendiary to talk about when it's obvious what he was going to do and what he probably should have done just for himself. Then I'm talking about him for his presidential aspirations.
Yeah.
What he should have done for himself, this was the right pick. Just keep it real.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's going to progressive values to the degree to which you think it will, we're talking about right now Joe Biden, who is the presumptive nominee, chose Kamala Harris. I don't think that's radical. You got to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we're going to have a debate in a little bit about how radical it's being presented as, but we can have our own opinion first. So I will say, I think of the people that had been considered, that he was considering, and I think that I never considered the list as wide as people presented it as. He wasn't really thinking about Barbara Lee. I don't think he was really thinking about Karen Bass. I just don't.
Nope.
And I don't think Elizabeth Warren. And so I would say, of the people he was actually considering, not the people I would be considering, the people he was considering, I would have chosen Kamala Harris. Knowing everything that I know about her, I think she was probably the best of the people he was really considering, and might actually help him. I don't think that generally VP picks matter all that much in terms of actually changing the vote significantly. And certainly I don't think Susan Rice was going to swing 5% of the electorate or anything. Right. But I think that he could have done worse in that. Again, this is of the people he was actually considering. Right. I have a long list of names. None of them were being debated. So anyway, yes. I know, Jayar, you thought that we would disagree. What do you think the disagreement was going to be, or might still be?
Yeah, so I was thinking the potential was that maybe he should have gone a different route because of the nature of including the entire left, or also many Democrats who don't like his direction. And to see if he's appearing to actually start listening to progressives, at least a little bit, and at least maybe put someone in that has a couple more progressive values and aspirations and directions you want the country to go, then it would have been her. But that's the thing, Biden isn't a progressive. So it kind of shoots himself in the foot to then push for a hardcore left progressive. So I get trying to include the rest of the party, but in choosing vice presidential pick, I don't think that's the way to go. It'll have to be through policy. Now, if he starts listening to folks that have something to say, then fine, do so. But that's going to come later after progressives have something to say, other than, okay, well, you're on your own now. It needs to be the exchange still needs to happen to where we can say and do things and push things a certain way, and we get some of those victories rather than expecting him to put in someone in place that already has all those things put in place. That person didn't win the primary.
Yeah, I think that if he had wanted to send a signal to the left, of the names that he would have considered for that, and again, it's not the list that I would consider, I think he could have gone with like Barbara Lee, potentially. The thing is, would that actually really significantly change his presidency? I don't think that any vice presidential pick is really going to change it. So to some extent, I would be a little bit annoyed, and I guarantee the actual reaction would have been, okay, so he picked a little bit more progressive of a VP pick, but like, is that really going to change his policy? So I think we would have been cynical anyway.
Yeah, because we
I
don't
still
trust
think it would have
him.
been better.
Yeah, people don't trust him. So therefore, if he did something that would
Yeah.
fall more in the lines of what progressives would have wanted, they'd have been like, okay, what's the ploy here? You
Yeah.
know, what's the idea?
Yeah, and I mean the reason that the VP pick is more important than it is usually is that of course Biden is old, and it seems almost certainly that whoever becomes VP is going to be running for president 4 years later, and there's even a chance that hypothetically could become president even earlier. What do you think about those two possibilities?
Oh, but I'm sorry, about what was that second part?
That one, that it's definitely setting this person up to run in 4 years, and that even hypothetically in 1 or 2 or 3 years, God forbid, could become president.
Like if that's part of the plan, I don't.
No, not the plan, but that raises the stakes. That
Yeah,
reality, I
trying
think.
to get a vice presidential pick that's this kind of a name that had already run for president a little bit in this cycle, that they have the national name for themselves. Sure, I think so, because we have our political legacies that we like to push in this country. Once someone's in office, it's expected they're supposed to take a second term no matter what they did, and that, oh yeah, second term, 4 more years. The chant is 4 more years based off of what? They just chant 4 more years, and that's for both parties. We always do that. Our guys in office, let's push it again. So therefore, if you have, then Biden gets his 4 years and then potentially another, we're set up for now another 4 years. Then the vice presidential candidate jumps in and becomes the next candidate. So yeah, I think it goes along with the nature of our game that we would expect that to happen, especially with someone as vibrant and as young and as potentially popular as Kamala Harris can be.
Mm-hmm. So a couple more questions I got for you. So one is, the choice of her in particular, considering, like, if I were to say what's for the left, what's Kamala's biggest individual problem? What pops in your head?
Well, because I had to cut a lot of it, but it's a lot of the healthcare back and forth.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that is certainly true.
As far as from our perspective, you talking about as far as just getting elected?
No. I was thinking in terms of her past. It's her prosecutorial background and what she did in that respect is an issue that pops into my head.
It's going to pop in here as far as her, again, them getting elected now, or getting into office, or you mean once if and when they're there?
I mean, potentially both. In terms of getting elected, it's an interesting choice for a time when that set of topics is like a big portion of the political conversation that we're having nationally. On the other hand, hypothetically, the things that she advocates for in terms of law enforcement now are different in significant ways from what she was doing when she was in a position to do it herself.
True.
But then on top of that, she seems to have known she was going to run for president this entire time. So how much can you actually trust of anything that she was advocating for or voting for? And I know that that path is a cynical path, but it might also be the true path. I don't know how to evaluate her. Like, it's obviously it's not the person I wanted as the president or the VP necessarily, except once you consider from the options we actually had.
Yeah, that part of the conversation with the prosecutorial background, which is an issue, let's keep it real, is going to stick with the progressive wing of the party. That's where it's going to be talked about. That's where it's going to be like, considering this is an issue, considering what we're dealing with. But for the rest of the country that is center or even right or center left and is as far as progressive as many of us are, they're thinking, oh yeah, that's an issue, but you know what, that was in the past. We do that all the time as politicians. Politicians always have a bit of a tricky background when it comes to things they've done or said or represented or voted for. All those things have happened, and these people don't get completely ousted because of it. We go, oh, that's an issue, and then we move on. So it'll get discussed, but the problem is it's not going to get discussed amongst their opponents. So that's why I was asking if you meant as far as them just getting elected. Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and them are not going to be pushing her being such a hardcore prosecutor. There's no way they're going to do that, because they can't, because they've been pushing this whole fake law and order BS for this whole time. So for them to then say that this woman who they see as this opponent and is super radical that suddenly she's this hard prosecutor who went after all these criminals. That's what they want to do.
Yeah,
That's what progressives are going to be mad at her about, not them.
exactly.
So this isn't going to stop their momentum as far as going towards the general election, because
Mhm.
that's something they can't argue. This is gonna cause a lot of head spinning and tongue twisting for people who are going to be pushing against her and calling her radical, right? And while at the same time, left folks are going to be calling her super conservative.
Yeah.
Which honestly, she's done a little bit of both, and that's the reason why it's going to be hard to nail her down.
Yeah, you're totally right. The head spinning has already begun because on the day that she was announced, they're trying to attack both. So they want to attack Biden for like the crime bill and Kamala for what she did as a prosecutor, which is fair. Both of those things happened. But also they want Portland to be every city. They want the cops to be hunted down by Antifa super soldiers. Wait, so which is it? Is it that they're way too deferential to law enforcement and they're cracking down this thing, or they secretly want anarchy? And some ads are making both of those claims in the same ad. I kind of feel like you got to pick a lane, and at least one, it might be a little bit older, the references, but at least it's based in fact. Kamala Harris doesn't want towers being pulled down in American cities and hammer and sickle signs being put up. That's just not true.
It won't add up, because then if they play this a certain way where she kind of ignores those ridiculous points and just hits policy and talks about things that the Trump administration has done and dismantles Mike Pence the way everyone expects her to in the debate, all those things will fall into place. It's a matter of staying focused and not, those are supposed to be distractions. Once the Trump administration is throwing just slop against the wall to see what sticks, it's up to you not to chase after the slop and start trying to lick it off the wall. It's just going to sit there and no one's going to pay attention anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So look, we're gonna give more of our reactions in just a minute as we break down some of the other reactions to it and get an idea of what the sort of narratives against Biden and Kamala Harris are going to be. And by the way, let's just touch base. Let's just center ourselves for 1 second and realize it ended up as Biden and Harris after all of that.
John, I've been wanting to bring this up to you and Jenk since we had the first conversation. I think it was probably the second episode of the conversation. Am I right? Because we just had open discussion, and it's not like you guys were set on it, but it wasn't really thought out.
What's that?
I mean, it wasn't confirmed in y'all's minds. You're like, the question was, does Joe Biden have a chance at the nomination? And none of us believed he was going to get it. I was on the side of believing he wasn't going to get it, but I did say, does he not have a chance? Are we crazy? Of course he has a chance. Of course he has a chance. And I was scoffed at. I was told that I'm supporting Joe Biden, not by you guys.
Maybe a little bit.
Oh, so Joe Biden, you support him now? I said, all I'm pointing out is the reality of politics. Joe Biden, President Obama's vice president for 8 years, and now we have this idiot in office. And we look up and people start having memories of Obama, whether or not you liked him or not. But that was a lot more stable. At least we felt like someone in office was thinking.
Yeah.
That was helping Joe Biden to the degree that no one could imagine. And it helped him much, much more than we thought. And now with a Kamala Harris pick as his VP.
Look,
good luck.
Obviously you're right, because they're the nominees. And yes, the thing is, there was really good reasons to believe that Biden was going to fall apart. And I would argue he did right up until everyone else fled the field. Like,
which debate did Joe Biden win?
I don't know. I think, look, Biden generally, the polls of his debates did better than I think they should have. I thought he was pretty bad at most of the debates, and usually not really a factor at most of them. And he did horribly in the first few races. And historically, nobody comes back from that. But everyone fled. And that combined with the sort of support that he had already had at that point. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
The establishment coalesced around that candidate because Bernie Sanders was again another threat. And they're more afraid of him than they are of any conservative. So that also fueled enough of people to try and surround Biden and help him out after they saw him struggling and after they saw Kamala Harris go and kick him around on that one debate. So all that happened, and not long after, Kamala dropped out.
Yeah.
She saw this from the beginning. She's like, it's time to stop attacking because it looks like it's not going my way. So I might as well go ahead and set myself up to have enough time between the last time I whooped him to the time he's going to have a chance to choose me, and then maybe we can let bygones be bygones. And it worked.
It
As
worked.
soon as she dropped out, I said, "Oh, this is a vice presidential move."
Yeah, but a lot of things that were happening seemed potentially like vice presidential moves. But I agree, and you were certainly right about Biden having more. But he'd failed in multiple attempts at the presidency. Anyway,
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, it was just weird. I was going back and I was watching some of the old SNL sketches of the debates, and to think, man, at this point we never would have. Well, I wouldn't have thought. You obviously did. Anyway, so yeah. Okay.
I thought Warren was going to win, honestly.
It should have been Bernie. It should have been Bernie. It should have been Bernie. It should have been Bernie.
Again, I said I thought Warren was going to win, just for everyone who misinterpreted.
Yeah, there was a point at the end of 2019 where it looked like it could be going in that direction. Okay, so before we move into the reactions, let's see. The Uber Gardener on Twitch says, John, you must remedy the watching of Avatar to be the true leader of the Dragon Squad. I'll try. I'll try. Jess Ortega on Twitter says, I think this is the most quiet I've been in a while on here. I'm simply sitting and listening to John and Jayar. Y'all should totally do a podcast together. Something about your voices combined plus perspectives equals one of a kind. I love it.
Oh,
thank you.
Jess is the best.
James Cassis
never said
says,
anything mean about me, therefore she's the best.
Yes. John and Jayar, since the Democratic Party has set themselves against progressives and drawn their line in the sand with orbital lasers, is there any chance for an actual progressive party in the next 4 years? James, love you. I don't think so.
A progressive party.
A new party that all the progressives go to.
4 years?
The system is what it is, and that electorally is basically a guaranteed failure. I think that we will have a far more progressive Democratic Party because, I mean, look, Bernie lost. I get it. It is a white hot wound in my heart. But other progressives are winning, and they're taking down established Democratic incumbents. That train has left the station, and it is rolling down the tracks.
Absolutely.
Some of the bounds of these presidential races have been set by events of literally decades ago to some extent. It could have gone for Bernie, but Biden has baked in 8 years of being the VP and everything, and it might not be in 2024 that it ends up happening, but
this is sorry, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
Like, this is a strategy that is being pursued by people both in and outside of politics. The Justice Democrats and the AOCs, and the Sunrise Movements and the Ilhans and all of that. And that is a path that is actually working and can actually work in the system we have to help change the system that we have.
Yeah, no. To add to that point, man, the best bet progressives have is to continue to win these seats in the lower areas, and then also coalesce all of these actual voters and people around their ideas. We know all politicians work this way. They won't do anything until it's proven to them that it's safe enough to do it. So after you have enough people that are the AOCs or the new progressives of this whole party brewing up, because they're pushing back hard now. They're saying a bunch of radicals, crazies, trying to disrupt the system, madmen, all that gets said. But as soon as they test the winds and see that they're no longer in their favor, suddenly they're going to love AOC. Suddenly they're going to love Ilhan Omar. Suddenly they're going to love Rashida Tlaib. They're going to love all the Cory Bush. They're going to love everybody that's then in office, because that's who the people now love enough that they have to jump on that same bandwagon. But politicians in general, old school politicians, have zero principles. I don't care what party they're from. They'll go with whoever gets them back in office. So if it's seen that progressives are getting people in office, they'll be progressives.
Yeah, and just think about 10 years ago, the Democratic Party. How many good people did we have in our corner? A lot less than we do now. Mm-hmm. We just do. And it's not like, oh, cool, we have AOC, that person that nobody's ever heard of, that occasionally puts up a bill and then it never gets any consideration. That's not the situation we have. The people that are in our corner now are the literal future, undeniable, of the party. They're the biggest names in the party. They're leading the conversations in the party. They don't have all the power in the party yet, and they're not in leadership positions yet. But that is going to become harder and harder to maintain as their numbers swell, and we're in the process of that happening.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, let's jump into a little bit more on Kamala Harris, including the reaction. So Kamala Harris was announced as Joe Biden's VP pick, and Donald Trump immediately hit her on substance, calling her nasty. Well, she is a woman, so I get what he means in Trump speak. I'm assuming she will become angry at some point. She's not angry yet, but for Trump, she's going to be angry soon. I guarantee that. So that's his immediate reaction. There hasn't been that much more from him, JR. it was a relatively restrained attack. Like his campaign's attacking her,
Right.
but his commentary so far hasn't been all that much.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's a plan or if it's just he was a little fatigued and he didn't want to go further, or he didn't have enough things in his brain to talk about, or things written on his hand to talk about her. But if it was along the lines of not wanting to go and attack right away because maybe he didn't want to get it back, it'll come. Like, he won't be able to help himself. Once she specifically, I think she and Biden are speaking today. There's no way she's not going to start going after Trump directly and hardcore, and he's going to have to respond because his little ego will not allow him not to. This woman, this black woman, is she's gonna come for me. Oh, how dare she? It's gonna come.
There's nothing he hates more. Now, in terms of the substance of the reaction, or at least the ideological substance of the reaction from the right, Chris Wallace on Fox predicted what direction it was going to go in.
You know, she is not far to the left, despite what Republicans are going to try to say. There is a certain circuitous route to her position on issues. She was for Medicare for all before she was against it.
Okay, so basically saying there, Jayar, that look, she's just not far left. It's just not accurate. That's Chris Wallace saying that, but they're going to present her as that. And you did not have to wait long for that to actually happen. The first most ridiculous example I saw comes from Ben Shapiro, who tweeted, "Kamala Harris is a far left radical with a shocking inability to connect on a personal level. She's rehearsed and mechanical. Her record is wide open to serious attack. She adds nothing to the Biden ticket other than checking some boxes for the Twitter blue checks." And blue check Ben Shapiro is not going to stand for that. Imagine how he would react if they took away his blue check. He would lose his goddamn mind. But anyway, I don't even know. I think that tweet was already written. He was just waiting to put in the name, because far left radical.
They're trying. I mean, actually, you know what? I take that back. Maybe they are trying, but the thing is, I would think you must not be trying if that's what you've landed on. I mean, you should put like a dream board out, I assume, and go, okay, how do we attack Kamala? And you put a picture of her in the middle, and you go, far left radical. Yeah, that's not going to work. Well, let's just write that off. Some idiot intern gave me that idea. Let's go for something else about her prosecutorial background. Oh, no, that doesn't work because we totally agree with it. Like, there's nowhere for them to go, so they have to go with what they think is going to appeal to their base, because they have no chance of appealing to anyone that's from the center or center left of anywhere in the country, or even center right now at this point. You have to appeal to the radical right base of your party and just say she's a radical leftist that is same thing he said about Biden. How can you actually believe this? Oh, Biden's going to start listening to AOC and start running to the left and do crazy things. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
It's honestly, I think they've kind of given up. It's like, well, let's just say it because we have to fill the day. And until November 3rd, we're going to have to just keep saying things. Let's just say stuff. It doesn't matter. Nobody's listening to us anyway. They all know that we're a bunch of BS artists.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw someone in the chat saying I need to work on my Shapiro impression. I wasn't trying to do impression. I was just freaked out there. But I do have to hear Anna's. I hear it's good. Brandon, I'm going to jump ahead to the Ben Dixon graphic before going back, because Ben responded to that saying, "You like dry ass P word and don't understand politics." So and look, and I'm going to go back to the previous graphic in one sec. But no, like, Ben, seriously, don't move on to the Kamala Harris thing just yet. You were on the verge of actually learning something about female anatomy and sexual desire and how those things combine. Don't move on when you're on the brink of knowledge, man. Actually figure something out here. But think about, like, Ben Shapiro, intellectual gladiator, the cool kid's philosopher. Kamala Harris is a far left radical. No, you don't know anything about politics, man. Or you do, and you're just a massive liar. Why did the progressives, why did the left not want Kamala Harris? If she's a far left radical, why did we attack her so much? Like, it's either supremely dishonest, or he doesn't know anything about politics, or both at the same time, honestly.
Yeah. It's dishonesty. The only people you can fool at this point with those types of points are the same people you've been fooling with the same things Trump has been saying for the last nearly 4 years. So it's just it's the way they operate. You have to go with misinformation. People will listen, and they're good to go.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, shocked to find out that Kamala Harris is a secret far left radical. You know who else would be shocked to find that out? The Wall Street executives that are apparently glad that Joe Biden picked her. That's a headline. we saw. And yeah, they're happy because she is a capitalist and not a far left radical, of course. So
Hey,
look,
maybe the conservatives should jump on that. Hey, Wall Street executives have been endorsing Kamala Harris as the VP pick. Oh no, we love those guys, and they also endorse us. Oh man, I can't figure out how to fight this. They actually can't get her. They can't get her on any
exactly.
of this stuff because they support the things that where she actually has the holes in her agenda.
And so, yes, and to add on to it, Chris Wallace was right. People like Ben Shapiro are just going to declare to be far left. Doesn't matter who it was. It could have been Joe Manchin. It's going to be old lefty Joe Manchin. But it's not just people like Ben Shapiro. Immediately, Fox News picks up whatever strategy the Trump campaign has. They're just going to do it. So take a look at this video, the handoff from Hannity to Laura Ingraham talking about that pick.
I'm 33 years in radio, and this is my 25th year at Fox. The most radical ticket of a political party in our lifetime by far, and they went hardcore, quadruple down on, well, radicalism. It's going to be interesting to see the American people's reaction.
Yeah, this ticket's too left-wing for Reverend Wright, Sean, okay? So this is, they will move way beyond, way beyond.
Okay, so to demonstrate how much they know about politics and how current they are, how in touch they are with the real world, Laura Ingraham says it's too left-wing for Reverend Wright. Who's still thinking about Reverend Wright?
That's all they got, man.
And then Sean Hannity. This is incisive political analysis. They went hardcore, quadruple down on, well, radicalism. Yes, the most radical ticket ever. Joe Biden, the guy who's been in the Senate for a century and a half, and Kamala Harris, who was rejected by progressives across the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to imagine what they would have said if we had a Bernie ticket, maybe not even Warren, but like, you know, Bernie and choose anyone else, and what they would have. There's nowhere else to go. These are attacks that they had primed for him. What could you possibly say about Bernie Sanders if he had actually got to know? He'd be like, oh man, he's sitting on. I'm really trying to come up with something crazy.
I don't know.
I really have no idea. This was
Yeah.
just set in stone no matter who got in, no matter who was the nominee. This was just
and by the way, that was a point that we were making during the process, that all of these Dems who are trying to scare people saying, if it's Bernie, they're just going to say that he's a socialist. And we were like, you idiots, please listen, because they're going to say that no matter what. How many times do we say that?
Yep.
50 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. Cenk is saying it right now. As I film this, Cenk is still saying it. And what do you know? We went with Joe Biden, who might be, other than like, what, maybe Bloomberg? He might have been the farthest away from the far left of all of those candidates.
Mhm.
We went with him as the main guy, and he chose Kamala, who has a good voting record in general in terms of like her percentage vote overlap with Bernie and everything.
Yeah.
But she knew that she was running for president, so you can't necessarily learn too much from that. They were going to do it no matter what. There was no reason to consider that as a strategic matter when we told you beforehand that they were going to do it, and now what do you know? They're doing it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's important for them also, like talking about this, the Biden and Harris ticket, to not pay attention to that and try to disprove it or try to make sure, oh no, we're super not far to radical left. So that could potentially be the ploy. Honestly, that's all they got to grasp onto as far as conservatives, is to hope that they're putting enough pressure on these two who sometimes listen, Biden specifically, sometimes listen to Republican talking points and actually cares about the ridiculous things they say and then act accordingly. So the concern being, we don't want to make sure we look like those radical leftists that they're claiming that we are. So let's make sure we don't listen to anybody that's a progressive in this wing of the party. You know, if anything, that's the best they got, that it'll continue to cause divisions within the party.
So let's turn to a slightly different angle on this. Obviously, the right is freaking out about the ideological far left radical Kamala Harris, but that's not the only thing that they're freaking out about her being picked as the VP choice. There's also Harris, who she is, what her name is, where she comes from. they've got some issues with that too. So first, let's just show the screenshot. I'm not going to show the video because it's way too long, but Tucker Carlson repeatedly mispronounces Kamala Harris's name on Fox News, is unrepentant when corrected. So to just catch you up, he keeps calling her Kamala over and over and over and over again. Bear in mind, she has been running for president at this point basically for a year and a half. She's been a national political figure for literally years. He doesn't know what her name is or how it's pronounced. When he's corrected, he gets mad and says, so what? So what if I mispronounced it by accident? Then he says that him being corrected means she's immune from criticism.
Mhm.
If you want your name to be pronounced correctly, you're immune from criticism. And then 3 minutes later, he goes back to mispronouncing it.
Absolutely.
After being corrected multiple times.
And after saying, oh, I accidentally mispronounced her name, what's the big deal? The big deal is we know it wasn't on accident, number one. Number two, after you've been corrected, you decide to continue doing so, whether it be for the reason that you want to keep doing it or just so you can make sure that you're not corrected. Because, you know, it digs to the heart of many of us as Americans to be corrected or to be told something we didn't know. The hardest phrase in the English language for Americans is, oh, my bad, or I was wrong. No, you can't say those two things or else you're going to get like kicked out of the country. So I'm not sure which one of those things it was, if it was that he can't be corrected on air, therefore embarrassing himself, or if he just said, you know what, I'm going to continue to feed my racist base by saying exactly what I've been saying and that I've been obviously corrected on. So he has to push this in some kind of way to make it a thing. And he flipped it. That is one thing he's good at. But flipping up to say, oh, so you're saying I can't even criticize her now? Oh, come on. And then he filibustered and yelled further and got along down the conversation to act like that was the straw man he was fighting against.
Yeah, and by the way, like I love the right. Nothing bothers the right more than the fact that they can't criticize things. And they will tell you how much that bothers them while they spend the entirety of their shows criticizing those people. I can't criticize them. I'm going to do it for the entire length. And then I'm going to end by saying I'm not allowed to criticize them. And then I'm going to do another show on it. And then say I can't criticize them and do another show on it. No, you get to criticize whoever you want. Obviously, you're in the process of doing it. Nobody's saying you can't. Just saying, hey, maybe like pretend to have the base level of respect for someone that if you do accidentally mispronounce their name, when you are corrected, change how you pronounce it.
Yep.
That seems like what a rational person would do. But he can't do that and satisfy the whims of his audience because his audience doesn't want to have to mispronounce non-white names or doesn't want to have to pronounce non-white names correctly. They certainly don't want to be corrected on it. And they kind of like the idea that it doesn't matter. You know, you or I, we deserve to have our name pronounced correctly, but some types of people don't, you know, and it feels good to do it wrong, knowing it's wrong.
There's a history, man, I'm telling you, and we know this history, but there's to disrespecting someone's identity, their person, who they are, what name they were given by their family, all that stuff. If you disrespect that, you're lowering what your belief is about who they really are as a human, their worth. Black folks' names got changed a lot in this country, just keeping it real, because they don't want to have to say those other names that give you the identity of who you are. Yes, I know she's not like, she's not actually, of course, this happened in slavery. Of course, she's not a direct slave or any of that type of stuff. But the thing is, if you disrespect someone's name, there's a history behind that. And if you flippantly just push it off to the side, that has the same energy involved. This is a name given to her by her family that she's proud of. And because you don't like her, you just get to purposely mispronounce her name and flippantly excuse her as a real human being. It's all a part of the same plan. You can attack someone to a higher degree when you have a lowered respect of their actual human worth. And this is just a part of that.
Exactly. And I don't expect everyone to know immediately how to pronounce someone's name. Like, how long did it take the country to figure out Buttigieg? It took a while. But once you but now you should probably know. And if you don't, and especially if you host a show and you're one of the biggest shows on TV for politics, but even if you don't, if you get corrected, change it. And if you don't, that says a lot more about you than the person trying to get you pronounce it correctly, or about the person whose name you're mispronouncing. But that, of course, is the entire point, because he's sending a signal to his audience that you don't have to respect these sorts of people.
You're better off just because people mess with Trump's name all the time and stuff, and they do it obviously. And when people say, "Oh yeah, that's funny," at least they're saying, "Yeah, I'm literally changing his name because I don't like the guy." He's acting like he has no idea. At least admit it. At least admit it and say, "Yeah, I have no respect for her. Therefore, I'm changing her name because I don't like her policies." We know that Trump is calling her phony Kamala. That's not her name, obviously, but obviously he's allowed to do it. You know, so at least admit that you're out there just to try and change the name, just so you can make sure you lessen her as a viable person. Just say.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just it's part of a it's just like we're gonna have another election where it's like, I guess, so they couldn't attack Biden for some of the ways that they'd prefer to, misogyny and racism and stuff like that. But like, I have issues with Kamala Harris, policy issues. I'm worried about what she'll do if she gets into power in comparison to someone else that I would have chosen who would do different things. But the identity stuff is it's all that they want, is to attack her based on that stuff. And so you know what? Why don't we transition to that right now? So many people acknowledge when Kamala Harris was chosen to be Biden's VP pick that she was already, in certain categories, the first to be chosen to be a major party nominee. And if she were to become the VP, she would be the first of several different categories, from being a woman to being Black to being, I think they were citing like it was like west of Texas or something like that. There's a number of different things. That is making the right lose their minds. So Ari Fleischer dismissed her being picked as just not that historically exciting to African Americans. And I know what all of you were wondering. You were wondering, what does Ari Fleischer think about this? So now you know. Good. Trump surrogate said Kamala Harris isn't Black enough. Quote, she is descended from slave owners. Yeah. I mean, you got, like, let's take a look at Mark Levin, because he starts off his show just launching into a conversation about what she is and what she isn't.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm not going to be a stickler about this, but the media will insist on it. Kamala Harris is not an African American. She is Indian and Jamaican. Jamaica is part of the Caribbean. India is out there near China. I only point that out because if you dare raise that, you're attacked. But the truth is she's not. And so I just wanted to make that clear. Her ancestry does not go back to American slavery. To the best of my knowledge, her ancestry doesn't go back to slavery at all. So I want to point that out because of the bizarre nature of our politics today about who is what and so forth and so on. Normally I wouldn't care. I still don't care. But I keep hearing people say she would be the first African American vice president. No, if she's elected, God forbid, or nominated and then elected, she's still not the first African American vice president. Just want to point that out. She'd be the first vice president of color, but not African American.
Yeah. You know what they don't care about is identity politics. They just want to break down for like a solid minute about what exact identity they will allow, not her to claim, but like someone to be excited for, about, because it's her. Like, there's nothing they care about more.
Okay, so this is her. Not you said the previous person said she's not Black enough. Now the ethnicity of Kamala Harris is all coming forward and all that stuff. So I remember they were crazy mad about some. I think it was Joe Biden who said someone wasn't Black enough. You ain't Black if you're gonna be voting for Trump, right? Black folks are upset about that, by the way. So you had an issue with him saying that, but you don't have an issue with them coming forward as soon as the ticket is announced and saying all this. Which one is it? There's literally nowhere where they can stand anymore because they've criticized so many things and then also supported so many other crazy things that there's no cohesive argument for anything that they'll be saying now. Like she's not, first off, there's a problem if she's not Black enough or anyone's not Black enough, but you got surrogates saying the same thing now. You can't criticize anymore. How you should be criticizing the same people that are saying what you criticized before. Oh, unless they're supporting you and they're in your party. It's way too transparent for us to continue to see this happening. People are thinking and they're seeing and they're listening to what you're saying. I don't know how we can continue down this road.
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying anymore, bro. They're not trying.
Look, we're going to talk about tomorrow on the show the QAnon supporter that just won a primary and is almost certainly going to, because it's a super red district, they're going to be like you understand, like there are huge policy differences between the parties, but they have lost their minds. They're openly electing crazy people who believe in demonic pedophile cults and stuff like that. They're thought leaders, the Tucker Carlsons, the Ben Shapiros. Like, have you paid attention to what they're saying? I try to expose people to it a little bit. It's crazy. But like, anyway, so on this, on Mark Levin, as many people are acknowledging in our YouTube chat, She doesn't have anything to do with slavery because her ancestry doesn't come through that. It comes through Jamaica. And all of the black people in Jamaica were there 3,000 years ago. What these people think that they're historians. They really seriously do. There was slavery in Jamaica.
Well, I mean,
What are you supposed to say to these people?
I mean, John,
Like, the bar is in the core of the earth for their commentators. You don't have to care at all about what you say or whether it's true, whether it's internally consistent, externally consistent. Passes a smell test, smells like S. I don't know. They can say anything they want.
well, it's obvious, John. If you'd have just watched Cool Runnings, you'd have the degree of history that these conservatives have about Jamaica, because that's all you need to know is Cool Runnings, and then Jamaica is Jamaica. That's it. That's all they really care about. These are black folks that, again, they still don't really give a damn about and just use it as a political tool.
Yeah.
Because if you're Jamaican, there's absolutely nothing there's no life experiences that you could have had that would help you understand how inequalities work and how we need to advance a certain way because you're Jamaican and Indian. Okay.
There was a story you were talking about the Cory Booker thing. There was this real estate agent who was in the process of kicking out a black family from trying to rent a house. And then he said, sorry, you're Jamaican. I forgot. Sorry. I almost made a horrible mistake there.
Oh, man.
Get back in. Come on, we want you here. Like,
can we go real fast back to Ari Fleischer? Sorry.
Yes.
I'm actually trying not to mispronounce his name.
That's nice of you.
I may have still done it. I'm sorry. So correct me if I'm wrong. So who are these black folks he's been talking to?
Mm-hmm.
These black Americans who have an issue with Kamala. I'm waiting for him to cite these examples because politicians always like to tell the American people what the American people want and what the American people said when they've spoken to zero American people, and especially zero black American people. They've definitely not done that. And if they had, they run back and then give the opposite point that they actually made because the real points definitely don't match up with their agenda. So already talking about what black Americans want, I'm gonna need him to go ahead and
and by the way, if you are any category of person, you get to decide whether Harris being chosen inspires you or makes you feel recognized or seen. You get to do that. Definitely not Ari Fleischer. We can have conversations about other people or groups of people getting to decide, but definitely not him. You get to decide that. It's not like some right winger gets to say, oh no, I talked to someone and nobody cares. And also I would say, I understand that there's a disagreement even here on the left about whether you should be inspired at all. I personally think if you want to be inspired by seeing people that are more like you in literally any way being involved in politics, you should do that. I think of it as a separate thing from whether it's a good thing for someone who holds certain policies to be put in that position. I think ideally both of those are good. But I disagree with her significantly on a number of issues. I worry about what she'll do potentially in the future, and I don't want her being present someday instead of someone like AOC. All at the same time, if you've literally never seen a woman in a position like this and it makes you feel good. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You get to decide. I don't. And the same for her being black or having Indian heritage or literally anything. If you want to be inspired or happy that that's happening, that's up to you. It's not. And if it is, and if you don't, that's up to you too, honestly. You get to decide that, not somebody on Fox News or someone on the Damage Report, honestly.
If you're worried about identity politics and black folks are glumming onto Kamala Harris just because of the identity and the potential shared experience or the potential shared knowledge of what goes on in America, hey, and you're having trouble voting for because she doesn't identify with you, welcome to the party. For the entire history of the country leading up to Obama, black folks had to hold their nose and vote for someone who had no idea what their life was like, who had no idea what their experiences were, and who espoused policies that did nothing to remedy those situations. So we still had to keep voting for them. So when black folks say we want to vote somebody who looks like us, sounds like us, and understands our problems, hey, calm down and let black folks be excited about someone who potentially has those types of characteristics. Hey, and if they fell short in different ways, you know what black folks can also do? Hold them accountable.
Yes.
I don't understand why people think just because you support someone that you then have to not say anything to them. That's ridiculous. Why is that the case? This isn't Trump Trump supporters, red hat rallies, where if
Yeah.
you say one thing different, then he has to kick you out of the whole place. That's not how this works.
Yeah, and if someone tries to tell you that, like, what do you think TYT was doing during the Obama years? Just supporting whatever he said?
That's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you that that's what we did.
We were hated by the Democratic Party and still are because of that, because we're critical of all of them if they deserve to be criticized.
And when
If you
did
do something that's
right-
bad, no matter what letter is before your name. Jeez. Okay, let's read a few little super chatitos. Shy Latte says, hey, happy Wednesday. Thank you. Franklin Sharp Slicer, does he have a second poem in one show? What are we doing that we deserve a second Franklin Sharp Slicer poem?
You're inspirational, John. You're inspirational.
Apparently, or you are. One more thing to note, Fox Radio saying, if you're not sure, don't vote. Maybe they are right. Don't vote if you're that far right. Maybe it's a Ferengi rule, weeding out right-wing fools. Thank you, Sharp Slicer. That's good. Bobby, thank you. Kate Holdaway is voting full sentences 2020. Hopefully we'll get that. We'll see. Billy Bob, thank you. Bobby Mange gave us $2 and says, use it for a new mic for Jayar.
This is the one everyone said they liked last time. And guess what? It
That's
hurts
true.
my ears like crazy. So
It does?
yes, I hate in-ear mics. They destroy my ears. I think I have
But I don't-
small openings to my ears.
This pandemic has been going on for like 5 months. Why don't they just ship you one of these?
Well,
I don't understand.
There's been a whole setup that happened. I got a big one over here, but then it's a long story.
Okay, well, maybe I can help you work that out. Okay, Valerie Jones says, John and Jayar are keeping me hydrated. I take a big drink of water every time I see either of you take a drink. TDR is good for you. Thank you. I'm drinking coffee and water to stay hydrated. Okay. Okay. Anakazi on Twitch says, yes, John Candy, the great liberator of Jamaica. And Bart, thank you. I know that John Candy was in Cool Runnings. I watched John Candy movies.
I was too offended to watch Cool Runnings.
I haven't seen it in 30 years, but I definitely, or 20 years. But I definitely
30.
saw it.
Probably 30.
Okay, let's see. Galfar says, had a person on Twitter last night tell me I'll be the reason that we all get disease and are killed because I might not vote for Biden. I don't think that you personally will be responsible for that. Ericara says, what about Corn Pop? Yeah, there was some great, in those SNL sketches of the old debates, there was some great stuff. I forgot about Corn Pop, and oh God.
I every time I talk to Ricky, I always tell him, Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Definitely.
It's the best line.
Okay, Joshua Smallwood says, need a fanfic on what they would say for a Bernie Ilhan ticket. No, you would tune into Fox News and the image that you saw would just be red and streaky because all of their hosts' skulls would have exploded as soon as they saw it. No, really, someone in the chat was like, AOC Cory Bush 2024. There would be nothing left. The camera would be shredded by shrapnel of skull fragments.
Hey, 2024. Well, we can speculate later.
Yeah, 2024. We'll speculate. We're gonna eventually have to speculate about who might end up replacing Kamala Harris in the Senate. By the way, got some ideas about that. But there's other big political news to get to, so we're gonna roll through these last two stories as fast as we can, starting with this one. Like all members of the squad, Ilhan Omar was facing a challenger. And because the members of the squad are extremely progressive, extremely outspoken, and extremely effective in communicating their values and pushing for the policies they want to see, all of them have faced well-funded challengers. Now, we know that AOC already defeated MCC and Rashida Tlaib won, and they're just notching wins left and right and all of that. But Ilhan Omar, the most controversial one, according to some right-wingers and even some centrist Dems. So last night when she had her primary, we were very worried, and we should have been, because she only won by a lot, getting 57% of the vote to Antoine Melton Moe's 39%. So a significant win there, almost 20 points. And she tweeted about the results saying, in Minnesota, we know that organized people will always beat organized money. Tonight, our movement didn't just win, we earned a mandate for change. Despite outside efforts to defeat us, we once again broke turnout records. Despite the attacks, our support has only grown. She got a higher percentage of the vote this time around, despite being so controversial. And she referenced there to the money. She raised $470,000. The challenger raised in the second quarter alone $3.2 million. So significantly outraised there. And, you know, there was a little bit of fear and a lot of prognostications that she was going down, the same as with AOC and Tlaib and everyone else, you know, involved in the squad. But in the end, no.
It's
down goes the challenger.
It's almost like having tons of money raised from whatever entities and donors you can raise it from isn't the end all be all with getting elected anymore. It used to be the norm, like, oh, you raise the money, you're a shoo and you're going to make it, because people don't have enough access to other information outside of your mobilization, your ads, how big your campaign is, your reach. Hey, it's 2020. People can get information. I can get information about what's going on in Nebraska without being in Omaha, you know?
Yeah.
So it changes, and the archaic approach to all this money in politics and it fueling, I mean, it still works a lot, let's keep it real, but it being the end all be all that fuels a winner is just changed. And until enough people figure that out, they're going to continue to get surprised by this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and AOC, she tweeted, I'm going to jump ahead to that, Brandon. She tweeted, I want folks to recognize how big of a triumph Ilhan's victory represents. Tens of millions in big money was targeted to unseat three of us as safe Dems, almost unheard of. This is what happens when you deeply challenge systems of power and corruption, but the people triumph. That is exactly why they've been targeted. And by the way, in terms of them being safe Dems and the fact that they face primary challengers, totally. Yeah. If you want to challenge them, the same as they challenge people. You know, AOC was a primary challenger, it's going to become a Democrat. You get to. But if you do it for the wrong reasons, we get to identify that. And if you do it for the wrong reasons and then you get crushed, we get to go, ha ha, we get to do that.
Yeah. Or maybe learn your lesson. Understand, if you're going to primary someone, primary them with real ideas and things that you think would actually help the country, not things that would help yourself, or not things that would simply unseat it because you don't like what she said once, or you don't like how she looks, or you don't like anything, who she's offended with her policies. Hey, apparently the American people agree with her and don't agree with you, or at least the people of Minnesota agree with her and don't agree with you.
Yeah. It's that you come at the king principle, by the way. Maybe come with something beyond just money. But I also want to just briefly mention, now that we've sort of moved past this primary phase as it pertains to the future of the squad, its integrity and everything, we have faced electoral defeats, obviously, this year, including the biggest ones, and it is devastating and it's consequential. America and the world will be worse for the fact that Bernie didn't end up winning. However, aside from that, in 2018, we had the first members of the squad win. And we had other progressives lose. And so looking ahead to the future from that point, there were a few reasons to be optimistic, a few things to be pessimistic about. The pessimism was that potentially they could be defeated. You know, if they come in and they're actual progressives, they could be defeated and it would be a huge setback. It would be devastating to the movement. So that reason for pessimism turns out didn't actually happen. The reason for optimism is this is the beginning of something. We'll get new people. We'll continue to take down these incumbents. And even some of the people that lost, they're going to have experience and they're going to come back with name recognition and they're going to win. And so we've had all of that has been happening as well. You know, Cory Booker lost in 2018, but now she has won. Jessica Cisneros lost this time. Maybe in 2 years she wins. We are, in fact, moving in the right direction electorally. This strategy is working. It might not be as fast as I would want necessarily, and there have been losses that have been devastating. But some of those losses this year, good people that we've had on the damage report multiple times, they could win their primaries in 2 years. In 2.5 years, they could be congressmen and women. And I'm hoping that that's the future that we're
I mean, the only good news apart, whenever a progressive loses, is most likely they lost to someone who's going to come in and clown it anyway, or at least the American people get a chance to see what they're going to be doing, which isn't much. And then that same person that lost previous gets to come back in and be like, hey, you remember me? Remember I told you guys what I would do? Look at what actually has been done. I mean, results will deal itself. All this will settle once the results of their actual legislating works or it gets done.
Yeah. Well, we had one other story, but we're unfortunately over. But we're going to bring it back tomorrow because I sort of kind of predicted a Trump COVID strategy, and yesterday he started doing it. So I'm going to give myself credit, but I'm not going to make Jayar sit through that. That's going to be tomorrow.
I made you sit through mine about Biden, so I hear you.
But you were right. I don't actually mind it. But anyway, Jayar, as always, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you being on the show.
As usual, I love it, man. This was a good one.
Awesome. We're going to get you that new mic and a new podcast with me. So get ready for that. It's going to be Jayar rated on Apple Podcasts. Anyways.
John works enough already. I don't think he's going to get on board with that one.
Probably not. I'll see you later, man.
See you, bro. See you guys.
And for those of you at home, let's see if we can catch up just a little bit on what's been going on. Okay, Tom Zawacki on Twitter said, Ben Shapiro is so insignificant that the only time his words are even remotely worth listening to is when Anna Kasparian does an impression of him. That's awesome. Maybe we'll get that today on the show, which I'll be on with Anna, by the way. Joseph Laundry says, I love Jayar on the show, but can we get Kyle Kulinski on the show sometime? So we have had Kyle Kulinski on the show, not necessarily recently. The issue is that with a lot of these people who host their own daily shows, it happens during the time or they're producing during the time, which makes it more difficult, but we can certainly try to do that. Jess Ortega on Twitter says, OMG with some hearts. Thank you. If it wasn't for you and John Iadarola and TYT family, I'd be so lost. You're amazing. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate that. Okay, on the super chats, Peggy Harkness says, I'll chip in another $5. I think that's for the mic. That's funny. Aaron says, John, considering you're a climate activist, thoughts on the Greens and Hawkins? They can't win, but what about the left voting our values in the future? So, Aaron, I actually had a 2-part interview with Howie Hawkins, which is available on the channel. You can definitely check that out. I obviously believe that our work, not just in terms of voting, but everything we do between elections too, needs to center climate change, environmental justice, and all of that. Definitely agree. We should be choosing the people who will be engaging in these primary contests based on that in no small part. So I do agree with that. Okay, Charles Massey says, why is a white person explaining the ethnic ancestry of a black person? Can't you just ask her, and why does it matter? They don't respect her enough to ask her, and it matters because their audience likes disrespecting people. They just do, and they don't want to believe that it's an inspirational story in literally any way. I don't know. The whole thing is just a mess. But that's what they built. Tony Fedora says, I mispronounce Tucker Carlson's name all the time with an F. I'm sorry. Yes. We should be obligated from now on. What is he, immune from criticism? Jorge says, I just want to say if you don't vote, you don't matter. Well, again, there are other ways to engage politically, but you should also vote. Vote the way you want. I have literally never told anyone how they should vote. I know how I'm going to vote. That's the only one I ever say definitively anything about. Okay. Kate Chan says, Dear Fox News, let me introduce you to a radical left ticket, AOC and Cory Bush. Get the popcorn to watch heads explode. That's true. But cover the popcorn until the heads have exploded and all of the gristle and all that has gotten out of the room. Then take out the popcorn and eat it. You don't want that stuff. Let's see. Anna Jackson says, I didn't wait for you two to make a TDR shirt. I customized a Dragon Squad football jersey. Number 22, A. Jackson, should be here this week. Well, I got to see that. You got to tweet a picture of that when it's available. Karanik says, if Trump wouldn't call you nasty, what are you even doing with your life? By the way, Avatar, The Last Airbender is wonderful and available on Netflix. Yes, I've started watching it on Netflix. I just got to do it. Brian Miller, thank you. Carson says, Jayar hasn't seen Guardians of the Galaxy. He's got nothing to say about anyone not seeing something iconic and amazing. Much love, though. Thank you. Let's see. Lorna says, if Trump thought the TikTok tweenagers had it in for him, Cory Booker is a Supernatural fan. He just zoomed with cast. The SPN family will make Tulsa look like a mild rebuke. I don't know much about that, but thank you. I appreciate that. Christopher Moore says, not a fan of Kamala Harris. When she was AG of California, she didn't prosecute Mnuchin for his role in One West Bank's fraud. Then she got a big donation. Yeah, I mean, look, how many videos have we done about that whole thing? That is the substance of our issue with her, not the BS that the right is throwing out that isn't an accurate reflection of her politics nor an accurate reflection of her ethnicity. Like, it's all crazy, but we know who she is. We know who Biden is. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Still got more planned for the week. Jason Carter is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow, which should be a lot of fun. And Brett's going to be here on Friday. You're soon going to be able to vote for your garbage person of the week. But first, we need to know who it's going to be. So there should be a tweet either already out or going out soon from the Damage Report on Twitter that you can suggest who should be on that. You can definitely engage with that. And then we're going to see at the end of the week. Anyway, I'll be on with Anna later today. Check that out. I'll see you soon. Stay safe out there.